The important thing about expertise is that expertise should be within a broader context. There's this wonderful remark, it's sometimes attributed to Winston Churchill, it's sometimes to Theodore Roosevelt, who's a very impressive American president, the first Roosevelt president at the beginning of the 20th century, which is they're talking about one particular variety of expert, they're talking about scientists. You want your scientists on tap, but not on top. Yeah. Now look at what happens. We have one very clear example of the problem of expert rule, of single issue rule, single issue expert committee rule, which was the COVID committee, which was the SAGE committee when we had the lockdown during the COVID epidemic. It was catastrophic because here, what did you have? You had a very serious, very heavyweight committee consisting of epidemiologists, of scientific experts, of medical statisticians and all the rest of it. They had one single concern, which was to make sure as few people as possible died of COVID. Well, isn't that sensible? Well, in theory, yeah. One second. But what if their determination to reduce the number of deaths from COVID meant that they didn't greatly care, for example, if people died of heart attacks? They were positively indifferent if they died of cancer. The NHS became, instead of a national health service, it became a national COVID service. You literally shut down all other forms of medicine. Hospitals simply treated one disease, and by the way, it turns out treated it wrongly. Putting people in the ICUs with the artificial lungs actually killed them. The process of intubation actually killed them. It's perfectly clear. We now know. We spent endless money on creating hospitals and on buying these machines, none of which were used. Money was treated as being of no object. In order to stop people catching COVID, you will remember, you decided to close the entire economy down. We spent hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds. And because we'd shut the economy down, people, of course, had to be paid money, so we paid them for doing nothing. Now, what does that do? First of all, we incur debts because of COVID that are on the same scale as a world war. Deranged. And still worse, because you pay people for doing nothing, people get in the habit of doing nothing. And people wonder why we've suddenly seen this extraordinary increase in people of working age who don't do anything. We have now 9 million people of working age who don't work. Yeah. What happens? It transpires, of course. The people who were essentially at risk of COVID were ill codgers like me. The joke that I always make, because I think you should be able to joke about the most serious things. Do you know what the average age of death from COVID was?
50.
83. What is the average age of death from all causes?
Like 30.
82. So I said, get COVID, live longer.
Oh my God.
But in other words, what happened was we went mad. But the rule of a single issue committee made us mad. Only the elderly were at serious. I mean, a handful of other people. There were people with odd genetic disposition, all of that sort of thing. But the one group of people who were practically guaranteed not to get it were the young. And what did we do? We shut down schools. And it's now clear that not simply the education, but the whole life development of a generation of school children has been utterly and irretrievably damaged. That's the consequence of government by a single issue committee that's not answerable. Because what happened during COVID was all the media, What were all the media doing? Saying more, more, more. Tighter, tighter restrictions. What was Starmer, as leader of the opposition, doing? Said, lock down faster, lock down harder, lock down longer. There was any notion of a politics that could debate, any notion of a politics which I believe passionately in which there's... You ask me why I say things. Because there's the basis of all good government is debate, is the ability to weigh arguments against each other. The basis of all scholarship, of all science. And if you lose that freedom, if you cease to have individuals who A, can handle fact, who know the difference between fact and fiction, and who are prepared to present arguments powerfully and forcefully, to challenge received opinion. Remember, all progress is the work of the heretic. All progress comes when somebody says no to something which is a received opinion which is false. All progress depends on being naughty. It's why I'm rather fond of particularly naughty young men. We won't pursue that.